Hi and welcome. It's Lavender Sky Panther. It's August 23rd, 2023. Back with you finally for another Sky Show number 198 called Sky Running. I'm happy to be back and thank you for joining me here, whether this is the initial launching of the show or you're catching it after it's launched. I just want to say I had a bit of a hiatus. There's been a lot going on for me personally. I am really feeling the shift on this planet. I am fully feeling the awakening on this planet. I am seeing people being activated in amazing ways. I've had to do the sacred walk with people I love over this last year and a half. Too many, actually, but for reasons which you might be able to guess, but there are also various reasons why a lot of people are exiting the planet at this moment. However, all that is doing is increasing the love, the compassion, the awareness that love is all that matters on this planet, and the relationships and connections that we make are the most important things there are. In addition to helping each other, whether we know somebody or not, we see a need to help. It is our call to do so and get up and exponentially spread even more love in ways we couldn't even imagine. I'm going to probably do a separate show covering some of the stuff I'm hinting at. In the meantime, we are going to get into more sky observations. This time it's covering a span between June 12th and July 14th, 2023. I have more on deck that will be coming out. But in the meantime, you get a little taste. And even though I say I've kind of been away, I've also still been present. If you've been following along with my community page, because I have been just posting some stills and doing what I can just off of my handheld device, my phone, whenever I can post some things in between, because I knew it might take me a bit to put out another full show, as they do take quite a bit of time to put together. Anyway, let's move and get into this and then move on. So this is just a scene. If you saw any of my community pages over the last couple months, I did post this one. And I did not include, I had some text on the community post one, so you might want to go check it out there. Had a little more detail there than I got into on the show. I mainly was interested in like really catching up and throwing these into a show. So I might have missed putting some certain scenes in that I wanted to. So do compare notes with my community page. All right. So in this case, I was driving along in the streets of Miami, and I looked up toward the west, and I could not help but be taken aback at this moment I caught of this scene. And these were clouds. This was not any kind of a campfire or somebody burning rubbish or debris. This just spontaneously appeared, and I'll tell you why later. I have a scene of it going around the corner and down the street, and it just emanated. It just started right here local, really, really low, you can see, and I'm on a street driving by. So I pulled over and took a picture of this. So it looks like this weird, almost like a chromosome or DNA chain rising up. And then we have this horizontal thing here. And then it looks like two figures. So to me, this looked absolutely like a bobsled with the driver getting in. And then the, I forget what this guy's called. This is why I say look at my community page. I wrote it. But the guy running and pushing the one at the end, and he hops in behind the driver. There's a name for him. Anyway, that's what it looked to me right away, to the point where these look like human figures, and they're both looking back at something out this way, the same way. So I know a lot of people document sky people, and there are elementals, there are living beings, there are ETs, there are what do they call it? IDs, interdimensionals. There's all kinds of things out there possible. And there are also craft that, they get together and they assemble in a way to kind of do cloud play with us, I'm convinced. So anyway, no matter what you're of the mind of, you cannot deny, I don't think, that we have like two heads looking this way. Look, they're even like shaped the same. When I say two heads, I still think these are just craft and other things assembling to create a fun picture. I do believe that whoever created this scene knows that I was aware that they were there. And I do believe that whatever is creating these things with Cloak and Craft, assembling these, it has fun with us, for those of us that are awake and aware and know that these things are there and possible, and we're starting to see them now. So Anyway, all that to say, I absolutely kind of get the joke that these are like two bobsledders about to hop into the bobsled. So all that to say, let's move on. That's what's going to be coming up in the show. This is the cover slide I've chosen. As always, if you've watched any of my other shows, I like to put in alternate cover slides. I wasn't sure which one to go with. In this case, definitely was leaning toward this one, but there are other good contenders. This one, I was going to call it Sky, so obvious. And this will be coming up in the show. I look over to the west, and this is in no way, shape, or form a natural cloud formation with this one object just, clearly sitting in the middle there. And we'll get into that later. Then we have 188 Sky Developments. And this is some kind of clear figure. Again, it could be multiple cloaking craft that are assembled to do a little cloud play with us and make this kind of bird, kind of like a bluebird or some kind of bird flying up. So anyway, we're going to get into this more. We're going to see a lot more examples. Now, before we do jump into all of that, I know I already maybe started a little bit with the spiritual path of things. If you've watched any of my shows, yes, I cover anomalies and cloaking craft and all sorts of things visible in the sky these days. But also, I'd like to include a Words, Wisdom, and Spirit of the Day page if I can, if there's some other kind of message that I'm meant to communicate. And, if that's not for you, then skip ahead off the slide and get back into the Sky Show. Otherwise, have a moment here with me. I'm going to read this through. This is just a message I felt very important to share for right now. So I'm going to read it. Wherever you are, love is. You already have everything you need at any given moment for yourself and to help others. Wherever you are, wherever you go, everywhere you are, everywhere you go. And this is very important because I had a spontaneous healing that I performed on somebody in a very public place. It was it just started to happen. I didn't plan it. And there was someone in need, clearly in need. And of course, somebody I didn't know. And I was guided to walk over to the person after talking to him for a while. And I was led just to give a instantaneous healing, laying of the hands, if you will. And I grabbed his hand with my right hand, put my left hand across over his chest on his heart space. Of course, asked him if it was okay. I said, I am a healer. And is it okay if I try something? And he looked in my eyes and nodded silently, yes. And so in so doing, I was just kind of standing, hovered over him with my hand locked and the hand on the heart. And we had a real moment. God's words were flowing through me and to do this healing. And then I asked him to look me in the eyes. There was a tear, and then I started tearing as I'm speaking, but God was just speaking through. And we had an incredible moment. Now, I'm just mentioning this because I was in the middle of a judicial building downtown. And, you would think that, that's the least likely place I would have just done that. Well, when we were finished having that locked-in moment, you could feel the love in the room. It was a small space. And there were other people kind of waiting around in line to get done what they needed to do. Before I knew it, I was just in the zone. I'm not looking around paying attention to who's listening or not. It was just me and this gentleman, and we were having this healing, and we were having this moment of sharing love coming in through me, through him, and back and forth. And it was amazing. And I'm saying this because I want all of you, whoever might be catching this show, to know that that is capable through you as well if you don't know it already. And don't be surprised if you happen to be somewhere you think you're waiting to get some kind of service done or pick something up. No, you might be the very bridge that God can work through to help heal somebody or just be there for somebody in that moment. So it's a miraculous, beautiful thing. This is no new thing for me, but I've noticed it's kind of picking up more and more and happening in places I would never suspect. So I'm just saying that you as well might be activated at any moment. If you feel guided to help someone, you'll be guided what to do, like automatic. You won't even know what you're doing, and the other person either. And then you're just in it. You're in that moment. Anyway, I probably should do a whole nother show just based on this kind of stuff. But as I said, I gave my little disclaimer. If it's not for you, feel free to click ahead. That's fine. Look at the sky stuff. Anyway, there was more I was going to say about all of this, but I think that's enough for now. And let's get into the sky observations. All right, well, here we go. If you are new, I'm just going to say this real quick. If you're returning, bear with me. I title everything in the lower right-hand corner strange cloud activity in quotes, just meaning that it's suspected or known cloaking craft activity happening in the sky. And also, I have an original photo, which I'll label, and an enhanced photo. And hang on one second. I am back. Sorry if I mute myself out. It's just to clear my voice. All right, so I have an original photo, and then I have an enhanced photo. Enhanced just simply means I've taken the original, kept it as it is more or less, maybe, dropped in some letters to kind of guide you as what I'm gonna talk about if I can. And all I've done is upped or lowered the levels of brightness, color saturation, and contrast. That's about it. Occasionally I might do sharpness or there's one more, warmth. But really, that's about it. So if you're not doing this already, I invite you to do it too. Most phones now, camera phones, will have basic filter features. You can also just play around with it on your phone. And if you don't have a channel of your own on YouTube, I invite you to do that too. And wherever you're at, just start looking around you 5 minutes a day, not even maybe. Just daily, go out and look, or at night, and look around you and just see if you observe anything strange as far as cloud patterns, colors, and whatnot in the sky. And then you can just start to play around with the filters on your phone. Like I said, just play around with upping and lowering the brightness, contrast, sharpness, things like that. And you'll start to see some really interesting things show up. So I'm just encouraging you to do your own YouTube show too. So because the more of us that do this all over the world, we can compare notes and start to put things together with all of the patterns and things that we're seeing and starting to see in the skies these days. I was kind of awakened 4 years ago to start looking up, and that was the whole beginning of this channel. If you go back to the very first show, it's really rough. Didn't know where any of this was going, but that's the whole backstory there if you just watch from show number 1 all the way up till now. Anyway, I'm going to go through probably this show fairly quickly. As always, I invite all of you to look at some of my other shows. You get familiar with how I'm analyzing these things and breaking them down, and I'm going to lean on all of you a bit to do some more self-analysis. Just because there's a lot of kind of turbulent stuff still ongoing in my world right now, and I may have to jump off quickly. So anyway, it's all good though. We'll get through it, and good things are happening even despite the appearances. All right, so anyway, let's look at this. So this is looking east, and it's around 8 p.m. And I just noticed, again, I look at trajectories. I look at, if there's an object with a trail coming behind it, things like that. Also, just looking at normal clouds of the past, we would call them natural clouds. We're big, puffy, cumulus clouds in this area. I'm in subtropical to tropical, Florida, where we used to, days of yore. I've been on this planet many decades and, been in this area long enough to track patterns and remember things of how things were. But anyway, with the atmosphere. But anyway, we just always have like big puffy white clouds. Sometimes they would well up into thunderheads or anvil clouds. We don't see that anymore. They would just kind of go across, they'd blow across. It's another thing. We've had a noticeably absent continuous breeze as of like 2012. Just that breeze was quote unquote cut off. I think they called it the Florida or the East Gulf Current, something like that. So we no longer just have like daily breezes. It's very rare and it's very noticeable. But anyway, with those said breezes, the cumulus clouds would just kind of blow across horizontally, very predictable. There would never be something on a sharp diagonal like this, okay? I look at, a lot of patterns these days, they don't even make sense because you have opposing forces and trajectories, and that just would not normally happen in our normal days of yore, cloudy skies, and now we're seeing it all over the place. So that shows you that there is cloaking craft involved. If you see two different puffy clouds, for example, I don't even see those much anymore. But if you did and you see them coming together, not both blowing in one direction, there's two different forces in those clouds. And that's proof positive that there are cloaking equipment or, vehicles in those clouds moving along using the clouds as cover, as camouflage. Anyway, let's look at the right-hand side. When you see the original, it's going to be on the left, and the enhancement's going to be on the right when I have the split slide view here. So anyway, just with, upping and lowering levels of attributes of the photo, like I said, the brightness, color, saturation, contrast, very quickly we get to see that, yes, this is absolutely something different happening in the sky with a little bit of a trajectory behind it, right? Now, there is so much particulate in the sky. The sky has been sprayed heavily for many, many decades, going back to probably the 50s or even before. On a daily, nightly basis, so that we don't have a true blue sky anymore. Occasionally, maybe one comes through, but it's like more like a white. It's like a whiteout, and that's because there's such heavy, heavy, heavy particulate. So if that all weren't there, we would see whatever this is much more clearly, but we can't because of that particulate. Anyway, we look to the right. We also see there's another object hiding in that particulate down here as well. Now, the more you start going out every single day or night, and like I said, just even looking up 5 minutes, taking a 360-degree pan, scan with your eyes, look around you, you will start to notice interesting things. You will start to notice patterns of some of these things, and different shapes appearing, geometrical shapes, rigid geometrical shapes, or sky imprints in the sky of, pure triangles, diamonds, kite shapes, even hexagons, just all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway, all of this is documented, in my show, starting from the beginning. Now, here we go. And also, I always give credit to, do go look at all of the other Earth and Sky watching channels out there. So many are out there across the world documenting this stuff too. I highlight and call them out by name whenever I can. And if you've watched any of my shows, for any period of time, you will see that I do that. And always credit your sources, people out there. If you're going to repost and analyze, kindly always make sure you put down who the source is if you know it. And if you don't know it, make that clear. All right. So anyway, this is over Miami, and so anyway, we see a clear shape here that isn't a natural cloud form. It's, like a pure diamond. It has like this, not even a partial vapor trail, but also objects sticking within it. And then we see it's connected to another object back in here, again cloaked with a bit of a point to it and a diamond shape. So I'm going to say absolutely this is some type of cloaking craft or machinery. Okay, we'll move on. Is there better examples coming up of some wild things? So now this is another part of Miami looking west, and often I'm driving by and just noticing some of this stuff at different hours because, again, just really looking around at the skies. Now, I already see all the particulate in here, so I already know there's stuff hiding all over the place. And this is also the perfect kind of light with an artificial sun. It's pure white to help backlight some things. So that can be very helpful in spotting cloaking craft. Right away, I noticed this larger pure triangular form made up of triangles, many triangles in it. So I thought this is going to be real interesting when we put the enhancement on it. So we look to the right, and bam, look at this. Right away, 8.1, we get something rising up this way, totally different color signature, and then we have something zooming off to, the right with a little hard line. Look at this solid line. It's a elongated triangular form. So to me, that's a craft with a vapor trail connected to probably other craft, whatever it left from. And then we have this thing, this constellation of triangles forming a bigger triangle. Well, to me, these are all individual cloaking craft that make that assembly. If you remember what I mentioned at the very beginning, sometimes they all, I believe, all get together and form these interesting shapes, not only trying to camouflage themselves, but I think deliberately kind of toying when they know there's an observer watching them and like, look what I can do. I can make a triangle. I can make a bobsled, right? So anyway, all that to say, now that we see the enhanced version on the right, and look at this whole bigger thing, looks like an egg shape hiding in there with something kind of clinging to the top of the rim. So I believe this could also be another bigger craft beyond, because we look at this color signature and how it changes. When there's really no cause for this to be yellow and this to be red, for example, when they're right next to each other. And when down here, if you look, there's no orange or yellow sunset happening. It's all a white glare out. So yet we get these vibrant colors. So I know that is color signature generating off of craft by their power source or however they're wishing to illuminate. So then we have this thing. So now that we're onto it and see that we've got a craft coming off here, you look back to the original, and maybe now you'll start picking these things out on your own if you don't have the eye yet trained to do it. So now if we go back to this otherwise kind of bland scene, maybe now you can also start to see what I was picking out, with my naked eye. So a lot of times I know something's there. I won't know exactly until I, put the enhancement on it. But I can already now look over here, and then it's like, oh yeah, I can kind of see this strong line moving in here. And so eventually when you do this enough every day and look up, just even for 5 minutes, you start to pick things out in the sky around you. So I'm going to keep going. There's a lot more hiding back in here that's hard to check out. There's going to be a lot in any given scene. I can't point out every single thing because there's so much hiding and exposed in all of these pictures. But right now, look here. I mean, this also looks like this black form looks like something triangular hiding in there. And then we have this big thing, fuzzy thing coming out here that also has a point to it. Could very well be a much larger triangular craft cloaking. And this is very egg-shaped. So again, that's a pure form. Also has some rigid structure clinging on the top of it. So I know that has to be some type of craft. And if you look at some of my previous shows that talk about who is behind this craft, I absolutely believe that it's pure ET or interdimensionals of some type, or even some things coming from inner Earth. It can also be, and of course, other dimensions, and also can be absolutely military craft or military in collaboration with other types of species not known to us on this planet. All right, now we're going to continue on. This is zooming in on that egg shape, and you see this cyan color. We've got a straight line and a straight line, so something triangular is just kind of like sitting on top of this egg-shaped thing. I'm going to move on just because I think oh, not yet. I will move on, though, but I've spent a lot of time here. But here again, we see, if you follow my cursor, there's a straight, more or less straight line happening here with these little spikes coming off of it. But if you look down here, this is a very rigid, we've got corners, we've got right angles, and over here too. So to me, this is a triangular craft, an elongated triangle craft splayed out. And these are like two pipes heading out, like exhaust pipes heading out the back of it. I mean, that is a clear shape. And I did have a previous show with the Statue of Liberty and some, what do they call those helicopters? They're helicopter plane things. I just forgot the name. Anyway, if you look at it, you'll see the cover has the Statue of Liberty on it. And I highly recommend you go check out Industrial Surrealism to see all the various types of these triangular craft that are part of a project called Aurora, according to their research on that channel. And that is definitely like military involvement with that. But there are plenty of other craft that you cannot explain that have energy sources that are not typical, that deny, that I don't think, no human here on this earth has that type of technology for. So we're talking there are many kinds of craft, as I mentioned, some absolutely of this earth, maybe working on them in collaboration with ETs. And then there's just some that, you can't explain that come from somewhere else entirely. All right, so let's keep going. Here, when I do the enhancement slightly different, look at this. We see a pure triangular form. That's undeniable. It's a rigid triangle. That's no natural cloud. We're going to zoom in on it. As you can see, again, pure triangular form. That's probably part of a much bigger triangle, as I said before. And here I'm going to toggle back and forth so you can see what I'm looking at. Already I see multiple triangles forming this overall bigger triangle, as I first mentioned in the zoomed out view. And you can see little points. You see the points, and then the more you look, you start to see these are individual triangles, just like this one. So, so here we go. And there's even one down here. You see a pure edge. What do I want to say? It's been a long week and a long day for me. Pardon my lapse in being able to speak here. But there's a pure straight line, hard edge, and it goes to a point. Okay? We're dealing with rigid geometry. We're dealing with symmetry. We're dealing with something that is not a natural cloud. All right, so we're going to go back to look at it there. Here we go. I'm going to toggle back and forth. And this is where the more you look, the more you're going to see these things if you don't see them already. Okay? Also, I'd like to note that this is an artificial solar source at the moment. I explain why in other shows. We also see a bulge out that wouldn't be our natural sun, would just have a more pure form. And we have this weird bump out, another thing down here. And that also supports, there's a second sun. A lot of other sky watching channels, are noting that and catching evidence of it. There's plenty enough out there already that I don't need to be convinced. I've observed it myself too many times to count. All right, so here I'm just kind of altering some stuff, making it a little more monochromatic in the blue vein so that we can see this. This is a pure triangular form. It also has like 2 little step outs, again, right angles here to, show that this is like the back end, and that would be the tip, some type of craft. All right, now we're going to go to a different day looking west, and I was just walking along a street looking up, and this is what I saw. So there was no heavy rainstorm, nothing whatsoever. So clearly stuff is either there's craft above creating disturbance to do this, or somebody's cloud seeding and trying to get something going. As it is, it just kind of appeared like this and then went away. There was no storm, no rain. But look at this patterning. It's pretty wild. It's pretty hard and near impossible to look up and not notice this. All right, now this is a pseudo panorama, so we're going to look at the bottom first as the original. The top's going to be in the enhanced version. So this is what I was observing that was looking really strange, something brewing, and I was thinking, well, is it going to dump something or not? Then we look over to the right here, and then this is to the, so where it's all brewing, that's looking to the north, and then we're heading on over and looking toward the east. And but look how very different the character of the sky is. We look over here, there's none of that crazy stuff brewing. So we go to the top to look at the enhanced photo, and just by upping and lowering the entire image at the same time, I didn't split it or anything, this is what pops up in this glare out. So again, the glare out, the fine particulate, all the spraying of the skies with chemical filled trails or camouflage trails. And I'm saying chemical filled on purpose, not to trip any stupid things on this channel. I don't want dumb banners, and if they show up, ignore them in the front of the video. But yes, it's chemical filled trails, and that's what I refer to the ones that have toxins in them. I'm not sure if it's true. I don't have a ship to go up and measure it, or a plane, but we're told if you look at any of these things, I don't know how true they are, but again, it is said that the toxic trails likely contain barium, strontium, and aluminum. There are a host of other things, like silver oxide is used when they want to cloud seed and create deliberate storms. So, there are all kinds of things that can be thrown in the sky there. But I also refer to camouflage trails, which to me are also smoke and mirrors, if you will, literal smoke, like fine particulate put up in the sky just so we can't see stuff. And those, I have a feeling that maybe not all of it's toxic. Some of it might be, benign, but still veiling what we can see in the sky. Anyway, all that to say, we look up here and look what we have. Looky here, we have another triangle. So the green one has a very flat, straight edge, as straight can be. So we know no cloud has an exact straight flat edge. We're dealing with an object. So we see it with the color signatures changing. We have a green triangular form, greenish yellow. Then we've got like this yellow ball and red on top. So like, what the heck is going on? And this like crescent shape thing that's darker blue, and then another kind of pointed thing down here. So I'm going to say this is riddled with all kinds of different craft. We also start to see like a crater, like a hole, a divot, an indentation. So I don't know if this is part of that little planet I show that's being very well camouflaged in our atmosphere, or if this is just a machine part, like an exhaust port or a window to porthole to something else of a craft. Anyway, we'll keep moving along, but I always love this because I never know fully what to expect. I thought it was big enough to see this weird pattern in the sky, and then you think, oh, that's just some kind of glare out, but then, bam, you go to a situation like this up here, and you start to see all kinds of things. Even down here, when I start to come back down to this original, look at this, I almost see, oh, hold on one second. Okay, just clearing my throat. I almost start to see also a very large triangular craft. This line is coming straight down, and I almost see a darker shadow. This could be a massive craft here with layers of all kinds of stuff happening in front of it. That often happens too. All right, let's get going, look further. All right, this one, I didn't remember which direction I was looking because I don't even remember where I was. I was in some parking lot. Anyhow, this form just started to look strange in general. With the bright light happening just right behind it, but it's in the afternoon. It's kind of odd positioning for that to happen. And here we go with some enhancement just this whole thing. Look at the signatures lighting up all over the place. Weird. So where this light source is, how do we have reds, you know, popping up all over the place when there's no sunset, no fiery sunset going on, you know? So it tells me there's something local happening in here with power sources that are being totally veiled by all of this thick stuff that doesn't even look like a normal sky for Miami at any time, any season either. You know, this is in June. Okay. Anyway, we start to see like weird little dark shadows, again, kind of a truncated triangle form, weird stuff happening all about. I'm going to leave this one for you all to have a good look at. I see a elliptical form here as well. See what you can see. The more you look at any of these photos, the more you're going to find when you give them good time to look at. Okay, now we're starting to look at a little more of the scene. I'm going to come here and look at this. All different color signatures. Like this is the street light. Sorry, this is a parking light lamppost or whatever, but that's happening here. But let's look up here. Look, there's nothing in this sky indicating we would have some wild color signature changes, except maybe down here where my cursor is, right? So that one I can accept down here around 8.1. But how the heck do we have warm sulfuric looking signatures up here? We have a weird kind of haze, which in here too, which kind of implies to me that we're maybe dealing with interdimensional craft, you know, giving this transparent look. And why this huge, enormous whiteout happening. And then we get this like dark black shadow happening in here. That tells me this is a thick wall of particulate with a lot of stuff hiding in among it. Right now I'm going to focus though down here toward 8.1. This really caught my eye. Something kind of more ethereal looking, something even almost ghost-like coming in and out. It tells me there is something happening here that's interdimensional. So I wanted to focus just kind of more down on this. Believe me, there's plenty going on in here, but I couldn't really get at it with the enhancements, but I could see what's happening down here. So take a good look over at this overall little section. So now I put 8.2 because we're moving in closer and exaggerating some of the enhancements. So I put more contrast and color saturation on this. So we see that area that I thought was looking weird and interdimensional. Look what we have. We have structure. So this thing is an arm, and an arm almost like, what do they call it, like outriggers on some of these boats and canoes, because these are parallel and they're like stick forms. And then I don't know what all is happening here, but I start to see also straight lines. So it tells me the machine parts. So this has got to be some type of craft. And then we change color signature right away. And there's some object happening in here, which to me is like springing off of the deck of said craft. And then we have yet again a whole nother trajectory where I have these question marks here. This is a triangular form with a different cyan signature. So I think we have multiple craft. I don't know what's going on in this scene. Do we have one craft like shooting something at another one, or it's launching something? We have this energy burst. So many ways we could interpret this. See which way you do and see what makes sense to you. See what you see in here. Also, I start to see that this whole thing is likely a craft as well, with like a long trail behind it. I see a hole here, so I think that could be like the front of some type of more bulbous or like elliptical craft. But see what you see. All right, now we're looking another scene in Miami, different place, and I believe this is looking north. And the overall sky, what caught my attention here was this was weird, you know, just weird. The patterns don't look anything like normal clouds, and they kind of like puddle out. I call them like a puddle cloud. They just kind of keep spreading in a very artificial way. And then A caught my attention because what the heck is happening down there? That's not a normal cloud form. So with some enhancement, you know, we start to see these different color signatures. I'm going to go back. Here, there's nothing to indicate we would have any kind of warm sunset or anything happening. So it just looks like all white and a glare out. So why the heck are some areas to the due north, absolute north, getting all golden and fiery when sunset would be happening off to the left of the screen here? And then we have this horizontal thing, which just looks like a craft that just like jetted out of whatever this mess is. We have a diagonal form, one going off here, one going off here. Clouds don't split like that when they just casually move across the sky. Now we also have to look at the imprint, like a little footprint in here, and this looks like one massive triangular form. Then we have also little other triangular forms, you know, sitting in here all over the place. Something looks like it's cutting through here, another triangle. All this crazy stuff. But we're going to focus on A. There's a lot going on in there. And then I switched up the letters here just as I zoom in. So At first you're like, it's a stray cloud, but no, a stray cloud doesn't look like that. A stray cloud, no cloud comes to a point like this. So what the heck is going on? And we have a pure curved form right here. So, and like a ball, an egg form over here. The more you start to look at the pieces, you've got an elongated triangle. We're going to look at it with enhancement. This thing really stands out as a pure form. And just no natural cloud does this. And then we have some weird thing trying to pretend to be a cloud, I guess, over here. Again, there's just too much strangeness in here, and other things that you can see being hidden by heavy particulates. So yeah, I'm going to call it that ain't no natural cloud. We're going to zoom in again with more extreme contrast and saturation levels up and down on the changing of the attributes for the enhancements. We see this is absolutely a cluster of objects in the black. And this little green stuff to me is like the plasma part of the cloaking material that these things use to try to hide in. And so anyway, we're going to keep moving along. Also another object down here, as we can see. All right, now this is a pseudo kind of a little bit of a warped panorama, but more or less a panorama. The lower one is the original, the above is the enhanced version. And here's again what we were just looking at. So the sky just was acting really strange. That other thing we were just looking at down below, I cut it off. We're just looking what was happening above it. And even to the naked eye, I start to see like a warmer pink tone happening over here. And as you'll see when we go up, look at this, how fiery reddish pink that is. And nothing else is like that, right? So that can't be just natural, oh, it's sunset and it's just picking up and highlighting that. Well, that would mean either that has a different composition of gas or water vapor, or there's an object in there that's self-illuminating to create that color. I'm going to go with the last thing I just said. Anyway, we start to see a dark shadow here too, backlit. So to me, that's absolutely a cloak and craft happening back in here. One here, another here, another here. They're all over the place. And because I can't quite see what's going on with all the particulate, I'm sure there's other stuff hiding in here above. Anyway, see what you see? Now we're going to be looking south-southeast somewhere else in Miami. And I just couldn't help but notice, look at this thing here. I mean, that's no natural cloud, and it's on an angle, and it has like little things trailing behind it that start to look like pure triangle forms. Another pure triangle form here. So we look at it with enhancement because there's so much particulate. Everything was a little fuzzy. Plus, it was, I think, humidity in the air, so it probably got my camera a little fuzzy. However, doesn't matter. With the color signatures, we see that these, whatever's dark blue, is a totally different animal from the thing right next to it, which has a totally different color signature. So we know there's like more solid objects happening in here. All right, now we're going to look north. That should be an NW for northwest, not MW. At 9:50, almost 10 o'clock at night. And I just noticed that even though this is going to be a little grainy because my camera phone can't pick things up too well when it starts getting dark. However, it was odd to me that there just seemed to be a ball of light, something luminous here, even though it's all weird and cloudy. So, of course, I'm going to see what the heck's going on. So I see that, yes, there's a totally different color signature happening here. It surprised me that we have a lot of reds and yellows, even though this is just all supposedly gray, correct? And then look down here, it's like this walnut kind of form. It is a kind of like egg-like form with a clear, opening across this thing that has borders to it on each edge. Very fascinating. To me, that absolutely has to be some type of craft or like station or launch pad for something. Anyway, there's all little things kind of happening all along here. So I invite you to put this up on a bigger screen if you can. This is the part of the show where I'm going to say it again. I probably say it every show. Bear with me if you're back. But the point is that I narrate this show on a laptop screen, like I guess like a 15-inch screen or something. If I narrate this show on a smaller handheld device where this whole image would look like a thumbnail, I would probably narrate a completely different show because your eye sees things at different scales. So seeing it on the bigger scale, I see certain things, but if I saw it shrunk down, I would see probably more things and vice versa. So I invite you, if you have the luxury of having a bigger screen like a laptop to look at and have a handheld device right in front of you after the show launches, play it through and just kind of move your eye up and down and you'll start to see even more things. Like right now, I even see like this could be a triangular form sticking out with like a hole there. But anyway, this thing caught my attention. I thought it was pretty fascinating. And there's something clearly here generating that glow. So I'm going to say that's some type of cloak and craft doing that. And again, we can tell because all of this, all of this is sitting in the same plane. So why would we have yellow and then clear red differentiation, and then this, kind of burnt umber, or dark umber kind of coloring here, right? Anyway, see what you can see in there. All right, this was just weird. This is in far north Miami somewhere, and near I-95, the main interstate, looking west, and you just kind of see this eruption of weird stuff. You can tell this is totally artificial cloud because it's got these frayed, fringy like edges that aren't normal. Start to see a triangular imprint over here. I see a craft over here at A kind of clinging to the rim. I have other shows I invite you to look at that talk about the craft hiding on the rim of some of these things. I swear they're like, some of these are higher up, and if you really watch the profile of these clouds, you'll see distinct, cloak and craft. It's like a little landing pad for them. And then, again, we have a pointed triangular form back here. None of this makes sense. If you're going to try to call it a natural cloud, just don't even. So with some enhancement, this is what you start to see. And again, it's always like a eye-opening, like, wow, this is what we get. It's a surprise, right? Because if you're looking at that, for example, did you expect to see this pure stick form with something coming right across, pure perpendicular to it? That's no natural cloud element, right? So we start to see machine parts and things popping out around the perimeters of these things. And look at this oddball thing. What the heck is that? And then this thing protruding out of whatever this is. So anyway, and then we look at, again, the color signatures. Look at this. How is all of this in the same, plane, right next to each other, and yet we have distinct forms with distinct parts. And then we start to have yellows, and then a blast of white with, cyan and royal blue at the edge. What the heck's that about? And we look at 8.1, and that has yet again another color signature of a different object sitting there. Okay, this one gets real interesting. This is in farther North Florida, looking west, and again, pardon, it's sometimes I just copy and paste for the slides, for the titles. This is NW, not MW, for Northwest. So I just happened to kind of gaze off to the west-northwest, and not only did I see like lots of sharp points and stuff that aren't natural clouds, but then I saw this distinct one at A, and I'm like, come on. And then I saw B and C, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's see what's going on here. So I'm going to be looking at this thing right here, right now, and that's what we're going to blow up, enlarge, zoom in and look at. But before we do, I just want to point out once again, do you see anything in here indicating like a fiery red sunset? Nope, sure don't. It's just a white glare out and clouds, but yet look at all these different color signatures coming in. Look at this thing, apparently like launching off at a diagonal, different diagonal than this, different line of angle than this. And this one's coming on the counter angle. So we know we're dealing with different objects in the sky because natural clouds do not move in that way. Natural clouds don't leave it like a trajectory, nor are they, look at this, straight edged. So anyway, we're going to get into this a little bit more. We're going to zoom in. Again, you see this weird object, like looks like it's just launching out of whatever this is. So I suspect this is one big craft, and these are all like random ancillary craft, flying in front of it. A2, we're going to take a better look at. Again, we kind of have like this particulate, like camouflage, whiteout or like veiling. But then we catch things on the perimeter, kind of hiding through that particulate of these red edges. Okay, so we're going to zoom in on that little figure. It's very intriguing. So the more we get into it, I'm going to do the progression here, the more we start to see, we see these sticks, stick-like things. Then this looks like a separate object kind of clinging to this one, like docking to it. Or like I often mention, it's like a remora on a shark, just kind of clinging there. And but the overall figure starts to kind of look like a bird, with a tail, a sparrow or something, rising up. Very fascinating, very intriguing. I wish we knew exactly what was going on, but it's definitely enough to whet your appetite and get your interest to looking up and seeing what these things are. Here's a little more extreme contrast and saturation on it, just to see if I can pick out any machine parts. But again, it's very intriguing. Mainly I see a little bit of plasma floating over this thing. I think there's another triangular form back in here that's dark. Again, what's going on with these color signatures? Why is there just a little burst of this happening up here, All right, now this is in Central Florida, and this is looking, I believe, northwest. Look how low in the sky this is erupting over this building. I just looked up and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It just literally kind of, it's not there 1 minute and then bam, it's there when you look the next. And that's how it works. So when I see them anyway. So this thing is just kind of rising and possibly there by itself vertically, even though the rest of this, whatever it is kind of horizontal. I want to bring this up because I don't know if I've done it in other shows. There's a lot of predictive programming that has happened in the movies, since the beginning of time, but especially time over here in our Western world anyway, but especially in the 70s. If you notice, 70s, late 60s, 70s was the explosion of all the sci-fi movies, the key ones like Star Wars and Star Trek, and then also Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out at the same time as the 1977 Star Wars A New Hope Episode 4. And those were very telling. And I do believe that there are two sides to the coin, but there's also the stuff in the middle. So it's never A or B. A lot of times it's all of the above, none of the above, or everything is possible. So I do believe that like the Star Wars was definitely launched out to start to plant seeds and for later on to activate the star seeds, if you will. The people on the earth here that are starting to remember where we've really come from and our galactic ties and other things. And so all that to say that in the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I think was the more negative aspect of talking about this stuff. Star Wars was the more positive aspect, and then there's some neutral forms and lines in these movies that are doing the predictive programming. But anyway, in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, if you recall or have seen that movie, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone if you're going to go watch it and haven't seen it, but there's a scene where the mom is running out of a little like rural or countryside farmhouse type thing. And she runs out, she's looking for her child, and she looks up over the horizon and sees this, oh no, she's not looking for her child, sorry. She just runs out and sees there's this really bizarre storm activity moving in. And it just, you see it kind of building and welling up and weird lights happening and flickering and flashing in there. And I think if you look at other if you look at other sky watching channels, you'll see a lot of people are documenting this kind of activity. And this just kind of reminded me of it. It's just like popping up out of nowhere. Now, this did not have all the different color flashes and the stuff with like weird fake lightning flashes and whatnot with different colors, but this just started to, well up like that. It just reminded me of it. Anyway, when we get to it, we have an angle. I just start to see things on the original where I see, again, when something is perpendicular or near perpendicular, with movement to it, I know we're dealing with something artificial anyway. So we look to the right-hand side and we see like a football shape, American football shape, pointed ellipse. We have this little line just clearly coming to it in a perpendicular way. Here, this looks like, a triangular form with maybe the end of a pipe and all sorts of weird stuff. Then you've got to start scanning the profiles of some of these things, too, to pick up the machine parts. So look at E.1 over here on the right. This, to me, is a bigger triangular form. We've got a straight edge here with perpendicular things. They're parallel to each other. They're splayed a little bit, but they're clearly, like earlier on in this show, again, another example where we kind of have, like, right angles on these, like, little pipes or sticks, like legs of a table, and they relate to each other. So this is some type of bigger craft. And again, I think when these things well up, it's an assembly of many different craft, creating an overall bigger thing, so you don't just see any one of them standing out. It's almost like I'll just call it like a composite camouflaging cloud with cloak and craft in it. All right, so now it's just zooming in on this weird form, and when we look on the left, this thing is now even connected or like holding a pipe. So here on the right, I just kind of very quickly traced over what I was seeing. On the left is, it's not the original, it's already enhanced, but you can see what I'm getting at. I do see a pointed form over here. This is definitely a stick, some type of pipe. So that's a machine part, hands down. Over here you can see I see a triangular form. And then these are the legs that I'm talking about with a very straight line here, okay? So these are objects, no question. They're machined, they're engineered, they have intelligence behind them. All right, now this is just to give you a little bit of context of how low this stuff is. And that here was that one thing I was looking at, and it had another parallel thing springing up right next to it. So the fact that they're kind of in alignment in a parallel way tells me this is organized intelligence creating these things on the spot, hands down. Okay, here's the stuff we were just looking at. And then here's another outcropping just springing up in the same manner, just out of nowhere. We got a pure triangular form down here. Again, the more you look, you're going to see another triangle here and something strange here. It's got a pure curve to it. Another triangle, another triangle. So yeah, we're dealing with cloak and craft all over the place. Very low in the sky, extremely low. I'm going to leave this for all of you to take more looks at. You're going to see a pure rectangular form, or this is, the overall rectangular form. Whatever it is, there's a hard, straight line edge there. All right, now we're going to look in Miami. We're going to jump back to Miami. The previous was Central Florida. And this is looking northwest. And this, again, was incredibly low in the sky. And then built up to all of this. There are many components forming this overall assembly here. It's really bizarre. Right away, though, to the naked eye in the original and driving by, I saw this triangle. And I saw this is not a natural cloud going up more vertical, etc. We look at the right-hand side, and sure enough, we see this is a pure triangular form. We see this is some other weird form, and it looks like it has two cables or legs that are tethered to this thing. So these things seem to be connected physically. We have a hard edge here, again, a corner, something really weird and massive happening above that too. So this is still the overall scene with more contrast, more saturation, pushed, enhanced. And we see there is absolutely a triangular form here, or like a kite-shaped form with some indentations, along the edges. We see this is a weird, skewed, more rectangular form, maybe like a rhombus or something. Seems to be a clear engineered part right here. This also could be a combination of a triangle plus another form, diamond form, making up this overall form. And then, okay, down here again, it's a triangular form with a lot of different particulate, like wafting over it. So now we look to the right. I'm going to just capture this thing up here. We're going to zoom in on it. And look at it. I mean, this is just so bizarre, the shape, hiding within the cloud. And I'm just going to toggle back and forth. I just see these clear. You just keep looking at the right side. I see these things down here are very interesting. If you see my cursor where they turn yellow, they were specific forms. They almost like remind me of gears and things. You can see heavy shadow line around them. They're symmetrical, these shapes. So very curious. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'd venture to say that it is the bow or the front part of a ship. Okay. Now again, pardon, it's a little bit blurry because the camera was dealing with humidity or maybe just couldn't focus. Sometimes when there's craft in the sky and you point your device, your camera phone, it moves in and out of focus, oddly so, when there's craft and other activity happening in there that's not of the natural sky. I'll just say it that way. And again, just in general, when it gets dim out, my camera doesn't do so well. So it could be a combination of all of it. But anyway, here we go. So clearly, regardless, blurry or not, you see pointed form, these are points, 1, 2, 3 of a triangle. Tons of little triangles happening all over here. E.1 is a clear triangle, some weird object with, pipe-like thing. And again, look how interconnected this is. You wouldn't have stick-like things doing this in the sky. This is like the outline of a triangle here. So that's not natural clouds. That's impossible to be natural clouds. And I don't know why we have this big glare out, this big ball, because again, this is evening. This is way past sunset. And there shouldn't even be any light looking east. And yet, bam, there's a big ball of light in the east. So that's generated by something artificial. And we start to see an imprint of probably a big craft hanging out over here. All right, now we're looking north at about the same time, and we just again start to see really weird stuff hanging out. Pure forms, pure solid hard edges here as well. Then look at how do we have something kind of rising up more vertical, and this is coming, totally flat horizontal, right? So that doesn't happen. And then we get this weird ball all by itself hanging out over here, which looks like it's probably a triangular shape, but we're just seeing a ball. Anyway, looks like a stick coming out of here. So to me, this is a cloak and craft. Could be that this is all one thing, just divided by particulate, or it's separated. Hard to say. But we also start to see a stick going down here, and then symmetrical, another stick happening over here. So again, that is absolutely engineered design. We're going to zoom in a little bit more to see those hard edges. That's an object, no question. And again, why is that going near vertical when this is horizontal? 8.2, there's another triangular craft sitting right there. Zooming in again. And this is just like the cloaking material wafting. I say wafting. I like the way it sounds better. Wafting in front of it. Okay. All right, now we're looking north-northeast, and this is, again, well after sunset. And this is just turning the view in the other direction from where I was looking before. And to the left is the original, and I don't even need to enhance it to see that this was a pure triangular form with a weird kind of arcing form above it. But I love it when we run it to enhancements because we sure do see it much better. And in this case, the more solid objects are the blue and the cloaking material, or the plasma, I call it sometimes. It's just wafting. I know it's wafting. Wafting in front of it. So that's where we can see that's that clingy cloaking material. And then look at these curious little spikes, marching along in a rhythmical order. So we know this is some type of craft or part of one because, again, that does not happen in natural clouds. We're zooming in. Again, it's going to be grainy and fuzzy. Here are those little spiky things. But in addition, we get a new bonus surprise here when we zoom in and keep, doing the enhancements. We have this darker rod-like object, bent rod, with the cloaking material around it. We have our triangle. And now look at this thing. This is like a top, like a, spinning top. Even a dreidel, if you will, something like that. There's a clear pipe. There's a clear pipe right here. Or like an acorn shape with a little, stick. It's a clear pipe coming to a point, and there's something happening in here. So to me, that's absolutely cloak and craft with a little triangular form next to it as well. And this thing over here, if you follow my cursor, this is also a pointed ellipse, and these look like two pipes at the back. So I venture to say that this thing is a craft, and that's the exhaust port or the power source, the thrusters, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, there's something else hiding down in here. And over in here, you see the darker shaded parts. And again, they're just hidden behind such heavy particulate, we can't make them out any better. All right, this is looking north, again, well after sunset. And this whole display is just bizarre because we're looking north and maybe a little bit northwest, okay? But it's just like pure white glare out, and it's well past sunset. And these clouds are doing weird things. Those aren't natural clouds. So voila, with a little bit of enhancement, look at this. How do we have a fiery red over here? This is now looking to the north-northeast. And look at this. Hello, got a craft. See it? It's kind of backlit. This is a dark object. That black is a craft. And the blue coming over it is a little bit of the particulate. So again, here's the original. I wouldn't see that. That's why I love the enhancement so much. I just up or tweak the levels of the attributes of the photo, and bam, we have a craft. It's just fun every time to see what shows up. It's hiding the particulate and these digital cameras. It's a love-hate relationship I have with them. I'm from old school. I've developed old film. I spent many hours in a photo lab. So there's things that I miss about the old days of film and print film. However, these digital cameras pick up a vaster range of photo and light sensitivity that our eyes cannot see. And that's why, things like this pop out with the right application of editing the attributes of the photo. Anyway, how do we have this? Explain this to me. How is this possible? All of this is in the same altitude, right next to each other, side by side. So how do we have something dark here, like in a more triangular form, but no dark in here, right? There we go. All of it's in the same plane. There's no weird, sunset casting any other different colors on it. So that's how you know there's objects hiding in here. Okay? And again, we got backlighting of this white, and it's also strange because we have this magenta, hugging the outside. And then why is this pure red down here, right? Looking up here, I don't see it to the naked eye, and yet our camera picks it up down here. Pretty fascinating. We'll move on. All right, now we're looking north, and yeah, we're in Miami. I forget where in Miami, but anyway, driving around. And, we just see this welling up. Well, look at here. We have this weird ball. We have like a stick-like thing. And really strange is what's going on in here. So, lots of strange activity happening. All right, here we go. Trying to see where I am in Miami. But anyway, we're looking northwest. And again, we got this white glare out. We got shadow. Got weird things happening all over the place. And with enhancement, look at all this color signature. This one's really extraordinary. I'm going to go back. So we have this white glare out with this artificial light source. I'll just be kind and call it that. But, we start to see backlit dark objects and weird things moving around and all that. But I really did not expect this color, all these colors, okay? So right away we know there's some kind of different color source, some kind of power source happening over in here. We have backlighting. We have a pure triangular shape. Got weird thing with the triangle kind of down here. Weird stuff happening all over the place. This is another one I'm going to leave to all of you to maybe look. And again, the more you look, the more you're going to see. Look at even in front, like what's all this stuff? It's like like grease marks or something. It's just really strange. And these were just some of the things that I was starting to pick out. Again, I just did this on my phone on a very small scale. If I did this on this bigger screen, I wouldn't have marked it up this way. But like you see, like let's start here. There's a pure, point here, like multiple chevrons forms. They're pure geometrical forms. Sorry, wrong way. And then like over here, I was starting to see like two tracks, two straight lines heading over to whatever this is, right? I'm going the wrong way again. Okay, so started to see a curve here and like weird little things happening in here. So see what you see though. All right, now we're looking east somewhere. Yes, east. We're still in Miami. And I started to see here an overall large triangular imprint, right? Again, the more you look, the more you see. Or you might see something diving down here with symmetrical wings in the back. Here we see it on the right-hand side. See this dark object? That very much to me looks like one huge craft, and this would be the back of the wings, in the back. Maybe something happening here too. So like something coming in and diving downward. It could also just be some multiple craft coming together to make an assembly to make that overall shape, to really catch the attention. And then, or hide the fact that they are multiple objects. Down here we have a pure triangle. I'll leave the rest to you all to look at this further. There is a ton of stuff happening in that scene. Okay, this is one of my favorites. Around Miami somewhere, again, on the go, on the driving. Driving around all over the place. But this is 520 looking south. And all of a sudden, what the heck is this forming, right? Just forming out of nowhere. And when you look, a lot of times you'll catch this just for a second or two. And then it already morphs and changes and it's gone. That's how this stuff works. So already I see, triangular form here with like curved, sides. Another triangular form here with a stick behind it. So it was just too weird not to photograph. And I was just kind of smiling because I'm like, I can't wait to see once we just tweak it a bit with enhancements. And here we go to the right-hand side. So you see this object here, symmetrical, the way this swoops, here to each side. Something's going at a not true perpendicular, but enough of an angle to tell me normal clouds don't move in that way. And again, we've got some type of triangular shape with like a stick behind it. And something really blurry and weird happening here, which usually tells me something's moving in and out of state, maybe in and out of dimension, or something happened to move along. And look at the color changes. This is all right next to each other. And yet we have this kind of weird, dirty, a little bit of I guess like a rust or a mauve color, floating through here. The whole scene is just really strange. See what you see in there. All right, here comes to my favorite little bobsled scene. And I know I talked about it already at the beginning, so I'm not going to belabor it. But this is driving along streets of Miami in a neighborhood, and I look over and I'm like, whoa, this is really low. I've never seen any of it that low before for the cloud play. I think someone was just kind of messing with me and laughing about it. And again, look how close. I mean, I just zoomed in a little bit on my little camera phone, and bam, we get all that detail. Now, this is pushing the contrast and saturation a bit. And look what I talk about, like it looks like these two faces are looking in the same direction. That would be the front of them. And that's that little leg kicked out as the runner's, hopping in behind the driver, right? But look at the color signatures on this are very interesting. So what I'm calling the bobsled itself is blue. Different stuff's happening in here, but why is this all red, And here's just another view. This almost even starts to look like a face with the shoulders. And again, these are two parallel lines more or less. And then this is as it starts to get even more with more extreme contrast and saturation. So we definitely see some darkness, something tethered to this thing. And what I find interesting is this piece right here. It's like an arrowhead, It's a very distinct machine part. All right, so then this is turning the corner and going to other parts around that neighborhood, and this is where you see it. So it's already starting to disintegrate, not even a minute or two later. And so I just caught it when it was well formed, and I swear, whoever is generating these things, they know when you're looking at them, and they know when to hold the form and when to break apart. It's crazy. Anyway, This thing that was the bobsled is still pretty much holding true to its form. Weird things are happening all about. See what you think is this whole thing, what it means. This looks like another shape to me, and that these things are tethered together. And then look back here. That looks like another pointed elliptical craft to me. See what you think. And look at nothing else around this that looks even remotely like that. All right. Now, this is fun too. Going to other parts of Miami, heading away from that scene, going to the north. I look over to the west. This is erupting out of nowhere, very low. And I love the way this object is suspended in the middle of this like parting of the quote-unquote clouds. So there is no way that is a natural cloud at all, period, hands down. So I'm going to zoom in on this D.1. I was fascinated with it a bit. But again, I think this is a cloak and craft assembly, many that are forming this overall quote-unquote structure, whatever it is. Look at this, come on. No natural clouds would just kind of do that and have an object with a stick on the front of it. You know, I know for sure this is showing me, yes, you know, there are cloak and craft in our skies. This could be one angled down. This looks like a symmetrical form to me. Anyway, have fun looking around at this one. I'm going to just leave it here for you. There's definitely something hiding right in here with structure, you know, straight line, perpendicular lines, with some, you know, plasma material coming over it. So we've got craft in here, or parts of a bigger one poking out of all this stuff. Again, at this point, I think they want us, they meaning again, intelligence from either a different dimension or in our realm, but definitely not human, man-made. And I believe this is a form of soft disclosure for people like me who are catching this stuff, and hopefully people like you. And if you're not already, hopefully this is your little call to maybe get involved and do it too, and start a channel, even if you just go straight from your phone and post it as a shorts, like I've been doing with stills and just showing some showing a video maybe even, and just pointing some things out on a little video that you can post just as a YouTube shorts. You don't even have to do actual shows like this. Okay, we're zooming in. Again, it's a little fuzzy because of the distance, but this is a clear stick. You know, we're going to go back. I'm just zooming in on this piece, and it's got like all the telltale signs of an object with plasma kind of wafting around it. All right, now can anybody explain this to me? Because looking at this view, that's no natural sky. That's impossible for it to be natural clouds. And we have different angles, you know, level at an angle all over the place. It's very kind of chaotic, very artificial looking. When you look at the perimeters of some of these things that are posing or supposed to be clouds, that's no way. And in no way they're natural clouds. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm going to have to speed up a bit here to get through the show, but anyway, you get my drift. No pun intended. This stuff's drifting all over the place. But it's also not drifting because we have stuff that's deliberately shooting up at different angles. Look at this. This is like rising at this kind of a trajectory. We got pointed, you know, triangular, somewhat triangular form with a big stick behind it. I have another little triangle with another baby stick behind it. We got a stick poking up here at a completely different angle. And we have this thing kind of emerging through plasma. It looks like a ship to me, or craft of some kind, as well as these. These look like this is diving downward. This is leveling out a bit. This is going horizontal. So to me, and this is a pointed triangular form going up. So to me, it's hands down, once again, multiple craft creating this scene. This actually even looks like a pipe sticking out of this thing. See, again, the more you look, the more you're going to see. And again, all the different colors, you know, and this is all right in the same plane. So how would we have, these are all literally right all together. So how is it that some are pink and some are not? So that means there's an energy source involved creating this stuff. All right, now this is looking east-northeast around 4 p.m. And I just started to see once again this stick-like, I mean, not stick, but a harder edged thing with like a curve. And then just weird movements in this overall thing. It almost looked like that this whole thing was a bigger triangular form, like this would be the back end of it. Also a weird like wake happening over here. Anyway, I don't think I got, well, maybe I got to more than I thought. This over here at B has like these weird, looks like pipe openings, pipe ends happening all along there. Triangular form hiding in here. I don't know what's going on in here, but I know that's not natural, and this isn't natural. This looks like a ball, like a sphere with something coming out of it. Anyway, see what you see on this one. All right, now we're looking west. We're up in a public building a few floors up. And I just saw this scene, and I thought it was interesting because this was very vertical. This actually looks like a truncated triangle. It doesn't look like any cloud forms that I know from this area for being decades of living there, having had lived there. Anyway, up here too, we have two parallel triangular forms, equal and parallel, with these like almost like rudders or like skis parallel to each other as well. This overall form looks like a craft, that has like doubled things, parallel to each other, almost like a catamaran effect. And I'd like to point out that some of you kind viewer noted that this looked like two dogs, or a dog, I guess, with the feet in the front. And yeah, it sure does have that kind of feel to it. And then we've got the different color signatures. So once again, we see the warm tones here and maybe a little bit under here, but everything else is like white, right? So we get this white glare out, but that's not a natural effect of a sunset. If it's supposedly setting down here, there'd be no need to have a blast of white. So again, I think we got a lot more going on than meets the eye. We have like harder object spec in here, so I believe that's cloak and craft generating. Yet again, camouflage via light, not just smoke, particulate, chemical-filled trails, nor camouflage trails. They're also doing it with light blasts, okay? Anyway, it's all very interesting. See what you find in here, because there's a lot more in there than what I've pointed out. We're going to zoom in, though, down in this area, the C and the D, just because the more I put contrast and saturation on this, the more I found. So I found this whole area very intriguing down here where my cursor is moving around. In the meantime, you see F2. This looks like a craft with a little vapor trail behind it. Same thing over here. And what gets real interesting is at 8.2, this is tip of a triangular form. And look at this, whatever dark form is hiding and lurking behind here, it has like these like sticks, coming down to something else. So the whole scene's just bizarre. How do we have all this different color with backlit objects, and then this is coming across in a different way with a different light source, right? So then on top of it, when we zoom in further, there's that like more triangular looking form. These are two clear sticks, these black things, to this object connecting this object. And then we have this coming across horizontal, with other color signatures. So to me, that's a separate craft as well. And we're going to keep looking. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Look at this. There's this white streak, and everything else has a solid color. What's that about? And then again, these two sticks attaching this object to this object. Well, I think it's actually one bigger object with a stick coming out that way as well. Then we're zooming in a little bit more, because what I thought was a triangle, this might be part of a bigger form. But what is this little thing coming down? Makes no sense if we're looking at light physics. Now I'm going to black and white just to better, illustrate what could be going on. Totally different character and pattern of whatever this is. And we have like an imprint of a triangular form. And again, this, better highlights too at C.6 that we have a different animal happening here than what's attached to it. All right, now we're going to move to a different part of town looking south. And this just looks strange, where we have A and B, and that's what it reduces to. So I thought this was just one bigger craft. We have parallel lines running through it. That doesn't happen in normal clouds. And that's what we really get. So to me, it's two craft, a companion craft maybe to another one flying side by side. It says a clear form in it. And so it's very interesting, right? Okay. Now we're going to look south, and then we start to see, triangular form. We start to see weird notch out here. Again, that's not normal cloud activity. And when we do this, we see, different color signatures, different movements. This looks very strange. All of this is very strange, not natural cloud. We see like a perfect oval, perfect circles here and there, perfect circle. What the heck is this supposed to be, right? That's not a cloud. To me, that's a craft, and maybe, maybe it's the leading edge of one that's hiding behind all of this. So many possibilities. Anyway, see what you see. This is another triangular form with a stick-like thing, coming in front of it. Triangle over here. See what you can find. All right, this gets weird. We have an incision. We have like an incise, like a cut mark through all of this that's perfect and curved. Then we have what looks like a cylinder with the end of a cylinder, and just all kinds of weird stuff. So I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. Let's see what it does with the enhancements. So here we go. You know, look at that perfect line cut through there, whatever this, all of this is. And it's even connected to like a triangular form. And what's the end of a pipe with like a, you know, weird cutout tube is connected to other things, which leads up to a different color signature. So I don't know what this is, but I know it's not natural clouds. Oh, and then we're going to move in on just this A.1 part, because it's just so strange how it just suddenly changes color. And I really extremely, it's going to be all bitmappy and crazy, but I put extreme saturation and contrast on it just to pull out what is that little thing. And we still get a lot of pop of like warm colors, right? So it's some kind of an object. Now we're looking northwest about after 7 p.m. And again, we get this whiteout effect. It's supposed to be the sun. It's not. Sun would not be pure white like an LED light, but it is starting to backlight something. So I'm taking a look and just trying to get at what could be going on in here. And there's a triangular form sitting right there. If you see it at 8.1, we have different color signatures, you know, other points and things happening in here. And this is backlighting whatever this is. And I was just trying to see if I could see anything. I don't think I see too much. But when I playing around with the attributes enhancement a little bit different on this photo to this photo. So this is the same photo and as that, okay? So what I've done is enhance it in a certain way where I can really get at what's going on down here. And then I enhance it another way to get at what's going on up here in the perimeter where it was all dark. So we also see an object, you know, objects hiding up here as well, okay? All right, now we're looking east, and this is what, like at 11 a.m.? And this caught my attention because this whole cloud assembly was way too close and low in the sky. Just very oddly close. It's clearly deliberately blocking out the quote-unquote sun source, which is artificial at this point. It's solar simulator when it's white and glaring, and just a white ball. It's not our natural sun. Cover that under shows. But anyway, we look to the right and look at this. Totally different color signature right on that weird thing, deliberately covering up the quote-unquote sun. So we've got craft happening in here. Now, what's the actual configuration? Hard to say. We have like a point, like that's a triangle, like that's a triangle, but it could all be one thing. It could be many different craft. Really tricky on that one. Then look at this. It's like this big black, you know, straight line. So that's the sky imprint, but could be in an actual craft cloaking in a different way. We got another thing truly black here too. So how is that possible? And then we get blue, you know, all around it. Again, this is all supposed to be right in the same area. So why all the different color signatures, right? Okay. Now we're getting to looking west at 12 noon on July 14th. And this really caught my attention because this was insanely low in altitude in the sky. This is happening far too much these days where these clouds are getting lower and lower and lower. It's like, how low can they go to get our attention? And that's how I know these are artificial. It felt very fake, very artificial, particulate, not like our normal clouds. And then you look to the right with the enhancement so you can see there's like a little holes here, you know, like something flew out of them. And this looks like the end of a pipe. And so there's a lot of weird little things going on to show you that this is artificially produced stuff. And I do believe that it's getting lower and lower on purpose to get our attention, that things are changing. All right, looking south, same day. Look at this. What's going on here? These are supposed to be like natural clouds. This is really low in the sky, the A, B, and C. Look at this is a perfect curve, and it breaks, and something else breaks in here, breaking the clouds. So we go to the right and look at this on enhancement. This is just nuts. So this looks like a triangular form with a curved back to it. Look at that. It's a pure pipe or stick. Can't have that with natural clouds. There's even these little like circle-like things that are symmetrical about this thing. This is a perfectly symmetrical geometrical design, which is absolutely engineered, an engineered object. So this looks like multiple engineered objects, but we can only really see this one because this is a glare out, so we don't see what it is. Then how do we explain this? This is no natural cloud patterns. So anyway, I leave this one with you as well to have a look at. Pay attention to this. This is a pure curve, right? If you keep tracking it through, it's an egg shape with something floating in front of it to try to camouflage that fact. So much is going on. Have fun looking at this. Oh, also, I'm going to zoom in on this up here, okay? And also this thing is just doing weird stuff all over the place, so have a good look at this. All right, so we zoom in on that thing that I was saying had a curved back to it with these like round things on either side and a stick. Well, now we see that that stick is actually a little object that's pulled away, just kind of tenuously connected with like vapor. And this looks like an independent triangular object. So I think that's the last one. Yes. So this is the photo of the day and the close of the show. As always, I mention periodically I'll do a card reading or something, or bring in a spirit message of the day. So if that's up your alley, feel free to look back in my other shows that do these, pulling cards and just kind of bringing messages to the collective. And so if that's your cup of tea, so to speak, feel free to hop in and join in on those. I will be posting those periodically in between the sky shows, as always. And I want to say so thanks for connecting here a while with me. I hope all is well in your world. And just remember, despite appearances, even if things seem dark, just know that things are happening for you, not to you. And the moment you say that to yourself in your mind or out loud, things will flip around for the better. Trust that no matter what you see these days, however bizarre, just know there is the kind of an order in that chaos. There's a plan, and more people are activating into being more loving and light-filled and rising up higher in love so that we can drive out the darkness. The darkness has had far too long to play and have free reign on the planet. And now's the time where all of us who know that we are kind of present here to bring the God light force through and in, just to light up this world. And that's what we're here for. So hope all is well in your world. I wish you tremendous peace and love always. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.